Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and we are in chapter 10 of Yevamot. We are on Mishnah 6, Ben Teisha Shonim V'yom Echad, a boy who is 9 years old in one day. Now at this age, we mentioned before, back in chapter 7, the physical act of a boy of this age has it does something. But since he's not bar mitzvah, he's not over 13 years old, he can't actually get married. So if he performs a marital act of intimacy with his Yevamot, the widow of his deceased brother, then it does something, as we're going to see, but it doesn't really affect a full marriage, since he has not yet reached the age of maturity and the age of having a legally recognized capability of forming a full marriage. Now, of course, our sages, the authors of the Mishnah, the rabbis for generations, we don't want a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old or perhaps even a 15-year-old running around doing a Yibum or a chalitza. Obviously, if everyone would sit down with their local rabbi and, consult an expert if needed and figure out what to do a Yibum or chalitza and who should do it and maybe when to do it. Perhaps it's better to wait a few years, as Yehuda told Tamar after his older sons, Er and Onan, passed away, and his third son, Shelah, was very young. He said, you're going to have to wait a few years. He's still young. So obviously that's what we would do if they would consult the local Orthodox rabbi, but sometimes people are in a rush and don't ask Das Torah, don't ask people who are knowledgeable what to do, and we end up with problems like Mishnah Vav. He prevents his other brothers, even if he has adult brothers, older brothers, from doing a Yibum. Now the reason here is that even though he's not a gadol, he's only between 9 and 13, not 13 yet, his act is considered a partial acquisition like ma'amar. Remember, we discussed ma'amar in detail. It's sort of a rabbinic level marriage. For example, they'd give a ring or give something valuable to the Yevamot as sort of a promise ring that, yes, we're going to get married in Yibum. Now, that act has legal effects on a rabbinic level. So the 9-year-old too, his act, even though it's an act that is biblically recognized, when an adult does it, his act is recognized as a ma'amar. So since this, say, 10-year-old, 12-year-old has performed what's effectively a ma'amar, none of the other brothers can then do a yibum afterwards. Ve'achin and his other brothers, postlin al yodo, they can prevent him from ever marrying this Yevamot if they do a ma'amar. So if he has a 20-year-old brother who does a ma'amar, then he's out of the running, even if he later grows up and becomes bar mitzvah. Elish posel tachila. But the youngster, the one who's under 13, he only has an effect if he goes first. If his act comes before anyone else's ma'amar, then he's posel. But if he performs an act after one of the older brothers already started the real Yibum process through a ma'amar, his act is legally meaningless. Ve'achin poslin tachila v'sof. But the older brothers, who are already at the age of maturity, they can disqualify the younger brother before or after. For example, if their ma'amar was before, or if the younger brother had jumped in and then they did a ma'amar after, he can not later marry that woman in Yibum when he reaches bar mitzvah. Keitzad has his work, Ben Teisha Shonim V'yom Echad, 9 in a day, Shabal Yevimto, and he is intimate with the Yevamot, the widow, Pasol Al Yedei Achin. He knocks the other brothers out of the running to do a Yibum. If one of the brothers married in Yibum, v'asuba mamar, or he did a mamar, natano get, o chalso, or he gave a get or performed a chalitza, paso al yado. Then the younger brother can't do anything even when he grows up. Mishnah Zayin continues this subject, ben teisha shanim v'yom echad, a boy who's over 9 years old but less than bar mitzvah, shabal yevimto, and he tries to form a marriage with the Yevamot, the widow of his brother, v'achar koch ba'alecha achiv, shu ben teisha shanim v'yom echad, and then his brother, probably a twin brother, or a very close in age brother, does the same thing with the same widow. Pasol al yado. It disqualifies the first brother from fully marrying her in Yibum when he reaches bar mitzvah. Again, since the physical act of a minor, even over the age of 9, as long as he's not bar mitzvah, it's not fully effective. It's only a ma'amar level of effectiveness, is partially effective. So if another brother in that same age category, even the twin brother, does the exact act, it's also partially effective, and neither of them can actually go through with Yibum. Meaning they can't marry her and live with her after they're 13 years old and carry on as a normal husband and wife. They'll have to sever the zika with a chalitza. Rabbi Shimon, though, Rabbi Shimon disagrees. He says, lo puzzle. He says, if the second twin brother does the physical act, he doesn't change anything about what the first brother has done. Because Rabbi Shimon says, really, at the end of the day, he hasn't done something partially effective. Either his act was meaningless because he's not bar mitzvah, or his act, even though it was a physical act without the requisite mental state of an adult, it was effective as a biblical level of Yavam. So if the first brother was ineffective, so too the second brother. He's in the same age category. If the first brother was completely effective in acquiring this widow through Yibum, then the second brother has not done anything effective because the first one has already got her in Yibum. Yeshar kochachem, sei gesund.